Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? So, real quick before we get started, the song you're hearing now is one of ours. So, if you'd like to hear it a second time, go check it out at most of the music outlets out there. And we really appreciate the support. Also, we have a Patreon set up now. Any help that you give us is appreciated greatly. For $3 a month, you can become a Rosebud and get access to everything that I do beyond what I do here for free on the channel. And at the Roseboom level, it is specifically for creators and producers to have access to my music library. If you'd like to know more about it, come check us out at Patreon.
What's up, all my little musical making monsters? Welcome back.
So, yeah, I just couldn't stay away. That first video, I missed so much, and there was so much more left to talk about that I just couldn't leave it be. And I still had this wonderful project here, this crazy little tune we made. So let's just pick up where we left off and learn a few more things. First of all, we've got this nonsensical audio track here that we made, right? We don't need that thing. So we can just right-click here. Anywhere in this blank space is where I generally do, in this big chunk right here. And then do remove selected tracks. And boom. That whole thing is gone forever. You can get it back with undo though. So that was just for emotional exaggeration. So yeah, what do we got here? All right, I'm not sure what that needs, but without adding more stuff, let's just take a look at the volumes of everything, right? It's a good place to start. There's a quick way to change the volume of any of this stuff, right? You can just go to that track and look right over here. On this doohickey, you see this little ramp thing kind of representing making volume go louder, right? Sneaky. This will change your volume up and down for this track only. If you change this, obviously it will change that track's volume. But that's good for little stuff. If you're mixing everything all at the same time, a bunch of channels you've been working on, or if you just want to have it be up in your face a little more, just hit F3. Mine was off on a different screen, but F3 brings that up and down, and you want to get used to that key right now because you're going to use it all the time. F3 like crazy. Bring up that mixer. It's pretty sweet. You have a few different options depending on, I think this also depends on which version of Cubase you have. I don't know. Hopefully they added it to everything. But you have different mix consoles is what they are. You can have different consoles set up in different ways and you can call them back up. We're only going to be dealing with our main mix console. And it always comes up with what key? The F3. The F3 key, Joe. Yeah, it's awesome. You need that. So learn it now. It's easier to just get it out of the way, right? You don't always want to run over to that mouse. That's one of the things. You want to get away from the mouse as much as you can. The keyboard's always faster if you can stay there. So it's something to think about. Cut some time out of your work. So you have a strip here for each one of your tracks. And then you also have your stereo in. You see me talking to you on the input mic. And you also have over here on this channel, this whole strip here is the stereo out. This is what's coming out of the whole entire mix, right? So if I shut this off, everything is off. These are the individual components that we added. You have the drums, the retro log, and the Hallian. Now, let's talk about that real quick from the past video. There apparently is no retro log inside of Cubase Elements. Sorry I made that mistake and I led you guys on. Hopefully most of you just picked another virtual instrument. The most obvious one was Hallian. It seems that that version of Cubase only comes with Hallian and Groove Agent. So you can find plenty of sounds in Hallian. I was just showing the retro log because it was a different type of synth, right? There's plenty of that kind of thing out there on the web outside of Cubase. You are in no way limited by what Cubase has. You can't get through the amount of synthesis plugins there are out there in the world. So go look at what's out there and find some stuff that looks good to you and is within your price range. You can find tons of free stuff. And I think my next video for you guys will be about that, of just some really cool ones that I found over time that are worth having, that don't cost you anything other than the effort of going to get them. So there's lots of options. Don't feel like you're stuck out in the cold without Retrolog. And if you really wanted Retrolog that bad, go check it out on the Cubase site, and you can buy it on its own. They probably, yeah, you can get a demo, I'm sure. But that's it for that. So use what you got. The instruments that you have there. On Elements, it's only going to be a few. It'll be more on the other versions of Cubase, on Artist, I believe, and Pro. And just use what you got. So with that, we have one strip here, one channel for each strip here. And I don't think I need to tell you, you can just change these volumes straight up. You can kick off your song. F3 to get that back up if you don't want to go searching for it. And you can just change your volumes here. One other thing you want to do is learn how to set your locators and then turn things on repeat, so that when you're doing things like mixing, you don't have to keep going back and replaying. So you'll see up here are my locators. You can just move them into place. I think they start out on the left here when a project is new, like that. You can just pull them out and use them to section off the portion of your song that you want to work with. In this case, it's where we want to repeat, right? So if I just repeat that, I'll be repeating only the tune. Right? Makes sense? The hotkeys for this are totally worth learning. If you hit the Alt key and press somewhere up here, it will move your out point. Okay, so I'm just holding Alt and pressing around, and you'll see it's moving that one locator. And if I hit Control, it will do the other locator, right? So Control is the left locator, Alt is the right locator. If you need that to make sense to you quickly, just look at the left side of your keyboard. It's arranged the way that is, and if you're using the right-handed side, it's inverse, right? That's the way I look at it. And once you have those locators set, just come down here and hit this button. This is a toggle button, so it'll stay how you leave it. And that has you in repeat mode, and you'll see this turn purple. And now when I play, it will come back around when it hits the end. Don't forget your space bar, if you didn't memorize that yet, for stop and start, right? So locators and looping, important stuff. So now that we have that set up, we can just kick that off, hit F3, right? And get our mix console back up again. And start mixing our tune a little bit. The first thing we can see, if this is all new to you, is that this over here is a little too loud, and this red box right here means that this has clipped. This has gone beyond the point of loudness that we want it to go. And that's the aggregation of all our channels and everything we've done together, right? So there are a number of ways to deal with this. The first one is to just cut the volume here. If you like the mix that you have, you can just bring this down a little bit, right? And if you don't like the mix you have, you can work with this first to get this all reasonable and try to reel it into a place where this is where it needs to be, right? This is one of the things about recording, is always keeping this balance of your volume and making sure it's all managed, that nothing's pinned up somewhere, or, you know, you want to keep it where everything is not peaking and all your sliders are no place crazy unless they need to be, right? Right here is just kind of the center point, right? And from there we want to lower or raise. We want to think about that. And that's also going to be where your clipping starts as well. Bring this down a little bit. You see we no longer have this thing clipping telling us that we're starting to distort. We're getting out of range where we want to get. But in reality, at this point in the game, what we should really do is leave this alone and try to get our volume straight over here. If it was my project, which it kind of is, right? It's our project. And since you're not here to weigh in yet, I'm going to go ahead and take the reins and say we're going to go ahead and work with these levels first. So what do we hear here? We bring them all the way down. Let's start with the drums. We're just going to bring them up to a level where we're not getting up to crazy, right? You don't want your signals up here in the yellow at all, ever. That's not what you're looking for, right? We've clipped here, means we got a little crazy. We don't want that much. Then we're going to need room for the other things to come in, right? You don't want that loud, right? First of all, we're clipping over here again. And we want it to be where we still hear the drums clearly, right? See, that sounds pretty solid about there, right? But you see, because of the frequencies that this thing is really operating at, how much less volume it needs to hear it clearly, as opposed to the drums, which, you know, where the transients are important, the things that really go out of scope. See, that sounds pretty good, right? Now we look over here, and where are we at? Everything's cool. We could actually bring up the volume. It's a, you know, it's a mix that you'd want to be hot for the for the style, right? So you want to get that as much loudness out of it as you can before it starts peaking. See right there, we've gone a little too nuts, right? We want to back it off a little bit. Too much. You see, over time, different things will hit and take you out of where you want to be. Just got to keep finding them and reeling it in. And there are a ton of tools that we have to make all this easier, but before you even go there, you really want to make sure that your general mixing is going decent. You don't want to start, you know, robbing Peter to pay Paul, as they say, doing other things to fix problems that are easily fixed early on in the process. Just doing a decent basic mix is going to be a great help. So volumes are important. Getting it where your final volume on everything sounds good. And then the volumes that you see here are going to be the volumes that you see on the export, right? So at this point, if you liked your mix, you could just do File, Export again. And now get out a new mix for your friends so that they can be impressed by how much your second mix has changed from your first one. Now that you learned about volumes, it's really important, right? So don't forget, F3 pops this thing up. You can work with all your volumes together like a mixing console, like a pro, right? Or you can just do it right here real quick. A lot of times I'll just hear something small and just go over here and boop, try to fix it real quick. One other thing to talk about is you have your panning, right? Panning is the next thing that you would want to look at after you understand your volumes a little bit. It's just sometimes you don't want things to sit the way they are in the mix. You want them to sit either to the left or to the right for some reason, right? Very often you'll play a lot of games with vocals and guitars and where the different pieces, the whole thing is all part of a contribution to a stereo mix, right? If you've got two speakers out in front of you, at least hopefully, and they make the whole stereo sound, right? So what you're doing is you're placing things within that sound. Right now, everything is just centered because that's just where it starts and that's where we've left it. But that is not how real music is made, right? There's different things. If we wanted to say, we could cut this retrolog sound way to this side and cut the Hallian sound way to the other side, and you'll hear that separation as we play. If you're in any kind of stereo setup right now, you'll hear that our wah is cut way to the right and everything else is playing on the left. If you're listening to speakers, there will obviously be some bleed, right? Every ear can hear everything somewhat. Just one ear is going to hear some things more. But hopefully you can hear what's happening there. Everything panned on one side will definitely give you a completely different feeling. So that's your panning. Try a project with a bunch of voices. Even if, you know, don't tell me I can't sing. I don't want to hear that nonsense. Just get in there, make some noise, have a good time. Make like 5 or 6 tracks. And if you've got kids, do it with them because they'll love it. And then pan stuff all over the place and see what it sounds like. Listen to it with headphones on. That's an even better way to be able to hear what's happening. Just move those things around while you're listening, and it's fun. It's great and it's fun. And in the end, you need to learn it. You need to learn what it does for mixing. If you don't want to hear something anymore, right? If I'm going along here and it would just be better, you know, I already set my volume for my drums, so I don't want to mess with it again, right? So if I want to hear the mix without it, I can just mute it. M. All these M's are all mute that particular thing. I don't want to hear that temporarily, but I don't want to slam my slider back down to get that repositioned, right? Just mute it out. You can also do the mute up here. It's the same exact thing. And that will also show here, right? Same thing. You're just different interface to the same exact thing. And on the opposite side of that token, you have the soloing buttons, right? Which do that in reverse, right? If I just want to hear my drums and I don't want to hear anything else, or I just want to hear my retro log and nothing else, you get the picture, right? And you can solo multiple things, which gets kind of ambiguous, right? With the whole scene, because then you can do that, and well, that's just this, right? You get the picture. Soloing and muting, another big portion of the mix. So that's it. With that, I'm going to kill this one today. We got through very scratched the surface of mixing and taught you about muting and soloing and panning, and those are all good things you're going to need in your musical adventure. So go and take that stuff and work with it for a little while, and then I'll make a part 3 if you guys want it. At the very least, I'm going to come back and show you guys some cool plugins to work with, both within Cubase and outside of Cubase. We'll start with some free ones. So you just spent a bunch of money on Cubase 12, so you probably don't need to spend more money right now. All right, guys, hope that was helpful, and I hope you have a great evening. Much love to you.